Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, and join our Facebook community for epic weekly giveaways.
Что нового, Airsofters? Settle into comfortable squat heels to ground and get ready for this review of Bullpup version of legendary sniper rifle, the CYMA standard SVU AEGs. The original full-length Dragunov SVD has seen much success since it was invented in 1963. In 1990, there was a call to update the platform for modern combat and for urban security forces that wanted the legendary Dragunov firepower in a more compact package. And what was originally supposed to be a simple update of the SVD eventually led to an entirely new platform, the SVU. In this Bullpup configuration, the overall length is reduced by 100 millimeters. That's about 4 inches for you Imperial folks. The center of balance is placed right in the middle, and perhaps most interestingly, this traditional semi-automatic platform can go full auto. That full auto capability is what makes this a replica of the Dragunov SVU A. Yes, it's a real thing. But is this the right airsoft sniper rifle for you? What? Still not convinced? Well, then let me show you why this CYMA SVU is ideal for anyone looking to get into the game with a semi-auto sniper. But before we get into performance, I like to go over the externals to give you a better picture of the package as a whole. I like that aesthetically, they've chosen to deviate from the classic looks of the SVU a bit while adding some modern flair and functionality with the M-LOK handguard. You can still see the old SVD receiver and magazine hidden away under there, but that rail really does pull this platform into the modern era. And in case you're wondering, just about everything on the SVU is full metal. Now, having that rail means you've got plenty of space for accessories where you need them. If you're interested in a more classic SVU look, CYMA Standard also offers an SVU with a more traditional handguard and integrated bipod. Check the link in the video description for that listing as well. One thing this version of handguard offers over the traditional one is the ability to mount modern scopes via the 20mm accessory rail across the top, like so. Personally, I really like that I don't have to use a PSO1 style scope on the side rail. But if you wanted to, that rail is still here on this one, just conveniently hidden under this plastic cover. It's neat that it's there if you want it, but concealed away for those that just want a normal scope. And you're not cutting your forearms and gear on that side rail thing. A couple of the accessories that I've attached that I think perfectly suit the SVU platform is the Aries fold-down bipod that's M-LOK compatible. There are 2 different versions of this. You want a single point to allow you to swivel the bipod, there's that. There's also one that attaches to either side of the M-LOK rails. And this AIM Sports XPF 4-16x50, which I think zoom-wise is perfectly matched for the distances that the SVU can fire. There are built-in flip-up sights on the SVU. However, with the range this is capable of, the factory sights honestly just don't cut it. They're pretty tough to get used to, and the aperture on the rear is tiny. Thankfully, they do fold out of the way conveniently. I'll also note that I'd probably choose a higher mount for an optic on the SVU, so you don't have to compress so hard to find a good cheek weld and sight picture. So personally, I don't find this stock all that comfortable, and maybe it's something I just need to get used to, but I find that while standing or maneuvering, it wants to slip out of my shoulder pocket. Now, on one hand, it looks exactly like the real one, and there's something to be said for that, but I find that this stock in particular is a lot more comfortable when using it laying down in the prone position, where you might be doing a lot more of your sniping. In that position, it is more comfortable and a lot easier to support for stability. So not terrible, just not great for wielding in a close quarters combat situation. Now there's no getting around the fact that this is a bullpup. And if you like bullpups, this baby gives you plenty of maneuverability and relative compactness without being too uncomfortable to use. The SVU is nicely balanced, with the balance point just behind the pistol grip, which makes maneuvering and transitions quick and easy. I was able to pretty quickly develop a nice muscle memory for snapshots, which tells me that this is also consistent. One thing I did find took some getting used to was the layout of the fire controls. This is due in part to the bullpup configuration of the SVU. The select fire lever is located in the rear and has 3 positions. The top 2 positions both seem to function as semi, and the lowest position enables full auto. This ability to select fire is a welcome feature and more closely resembles the real SVU-A variant of the rifle. The actual safety, however, is located just above the trigger. It's a sliding design that you push from either side of the receiver. Make sure you don't forget that when you're re-entering the safe area after your game. Like most other bullpup designs, the magazine is located behind the trigger group. And despite kind of reorganizing everything on the SVU from the standard SVD, the reloading mechanism is just like many other standard AK and SVD platforms. Depress the lever in the rear and rock the magazine forward, which is made difficult by the fact that your hand on the pistol grip is inhabiting the same space that the magazine needs to roll into. Again, it's one of those things that you just have to get used to over time, or get used to shifting your grip so that you can perform a reload. And now, my friends, I must tell you about my biggest gripe. The battery compartment. The battery compartment is located up here underneath the top cover of the handguard, which slides forward after depressing this button here. That gives you access to the Tamiya plug and the battery compartment itself. And that compartment is tight. Real tight. Like there are only a few batteries outside of the included one that are going to fit. We had the best luck with the slimmer 7.4 volt LiPos. And the performance difference on semi seems to be pretty negligible between 11.1 and 7.4 volt LiPo. And on full auto, you only pick up an extra round per second or two. Now, there are a few 11.1 volt batteries that will fit. They're going to need to be super slim, but they do exist. Check out the video description for a few options that we recommend. We did many tests, starting with BB weight, and found that up to 0.43 gram BBs can be used no problem in this stock hop-up chamber and bucking, out to about 200 feet maximum. Now, with that said, the best distance we achieved was with a 0.36 gram BB with about a 250 foot maximum. So that's what we're going to recommend when using the SVU. And using those 0.36 gram BBs, we did accuracy tests at 100 feet and 200 feet. Now, 100 foot is about the minimum engagement distance for most DMRs on most fields. So at that minimum distance, you can hit your target almost every time. Even the 6-inch gong was no issue. Out at 200 feet, it's a slightly different story. Maybe a 50% hit ratio on the torso target. But that's why you have semi-auto, so you can put 5 more down range right away while your bolt-action sniper buddy is still lining up his second miss. And then third. Oh, he got it. He finally got it. Meanwhile, you've put down 10 more rounds. Now, the FPS is right on point. With 0.2 gram BBs, we were getting results right at the 450 mark, or 1.9 joules, which is, again, right at the limit for most DMRs at most fields. And with 0.36s, that FPS was right around 330 FPS. You know, it's worth noting that having full auto on something that is really an effective DMR is, let's say, out of place. And on most fields, if you're playing by DMR rules, you're going to need to find some way to disable that full auto. Although if you're an honest player and have a good relationship with your local field, you may be able to get away with simply not switching it to full auto. Something to consider if you are planning on making this a dedicated DMR. That said, this rifle has the performance necessary to be an out-of-the-box sniper that really doesn't need any upgrades to be effective. But if you wanted to, you could really crank up the precision with a better bucking and barrel. The gearbox is pretty squared away for most users, but if you're anything like me, and you can't resist tinkering, here's a sneak peek at the super reliable CYMA 4-gear gearbox. Getting to the SVU gearbox is a bit of a pain. There's a few sets of hidden or recessed screws that are not only challenging to get to, but just plain challenging to find. If you're making upgrades to your SVU, give us a call and we'll help you out. Contact info is in the video description. And before we go over the list of parts, it's worth mentioning that almost everything in the gearbox is proprietary. The gearbox uses a short-type motor that is tuned for torque and has neodymium magnets, perfect for pulling heavier springs. All 4 gears ride on 7mm bushings. The piston is a long 19-tooth design, 2 of which are metal, and all of them are only half width. The piston head is polymer, as is the cylinder head. The cylinder is longer to match the draw of the piston and has no ports. The compression out of the box is not terribly good. And honestly, maybe that's a good thing out of the box because this only barely meets most chrono rules at fields. But that can be addressed with a better piston head and O-ring and maybe some Teflon tape around the cylinder head. If you know, you know. The nozzle is super short. At only 17mm long, it's one of the shortest nozzles in Airsoft. The inner barrel, on the other hand, is one of the longest stock barrels in Airsoft, a full 590mm, and it's standard spec, so you can find replacement and upgrade barrels pretty easily. The bucking is pretty standard for CYMA, but the hop-up chamber is unique to the SVD and SVU platforms and can be adjusted very finely, slowly threading downward as you spin it. This lets you adjust the hop in very small increments, which is ideal for a sniping platform. In all, the internals of the CYMA SVD and SVU platforms are very robust, great for pulling stiff springs and pushing a large volume of air down an extra long barrel. So, if you're looking for the legendary performance and reliability of a 4-gear drivetrain without the ridiculously long overall length of the SVD, then the CYMA Standard SVU, pairing amazing performance and one of the longest inner barrel lengths in Airsoft with bullpup ergonomics and compactness, is perfect choice for you. Defend the far reaches of the Airsoft battlefield by adding this to your Airsoft arsenal. Get right here at Evike.com. Play hard, play safe, play with honored comrades. Thank you for watching. We did many tests. We did many tests, starting with BB weight. Sorry. We did many tests. We did many tests, starting with BB weight.